what you expect to be a date back from Firestore and realize it's actually not of that type, it's of this type timestamp. And so we're just making sure when we get something back, when we are decoding it, that we can use it as a date like we would otherwise. How do y'all feel about that?
So Firestore knows that dates are timestamps. So if I want to use a date that's not a timestamp, it's just their type of date.
So they store it, like in their storage, they set it up as this thing called a timestamp. They know how to recognize a date and turn it into a timestamp, and that's like their encoded version of a date. But when they return that information to you, you can't use a timestamp as a date without using this date value. And I just did this for all of our models because it's going to be the same thing here. Blah. I might extend date so that I don't have to do this every time, but instead get a timestamp and then give back a date. I could also extend timestamp because it's in the frameworks that I have imported as pods. So many ways we can handle this much more elegantly. For right now, this explicitly is here. This is here so you can explicitly see what's happening. And because I want to sort my post list view controller using a sorting criteria. So how do I sort things? On a collection, I can just say order by. I can say the key, and I can say ascending. Here's something really fun. This is Android code. Most of this is written, this is all written in Java. The nice thing about using Firebase is going to be that most of the frameworks that it provides to various clients, so the web or an Android app or our iOS apps, are going to have pretty similar syntax and documentation. So if you're having trouble with using Firebase, auth, using Firestore, something like that, the great thing is that other developers on other platforms will see pretty much the same kind of code that you've seen. We're going to use this order by on a collection, giving the key that we want to order by. And then there's something a little bit different with our order by, but this is the main format. That's their Firestore, that's the collection, and then here is the criterion that we're adding. So like we did yesterday with our get post for user ID, had my collection, then added a criterion, and then went and got the documents. So when I get all posts, I'm going to add an argument here that's optional, and that's going to be sorting criteria. I'm going to make that thing part of an enum. So I could say, here's an enum of sorting criteria that I can pick from, and then I can just get back the string date created. And that's going to be great because on the view controller level, I'll just go look for this enum, and I'll just say, at this point in the app, I want to sort by date created. I could add a whole menu here that I tap and pick how it's sorted. It's great stuff. And so I'm going to say here, because enums are types, there's an optional sorting criteria. That's it. It's easy. I'm going to say by default it's equal to nil, so that there is an initialization, or I'm sorry, there's a function call that doesn't require me to use sorting criteria. But because sorting criteria itself is a string, I don't have to do anything else. So I want to sort out my posts. I want to say something similar to what we did before with that where clause. But now, before I get documents, I'm going to see if I want to add that sorting criteria to this collection. So just like we did with the where clause, where we picked out specific post IDs, we looked for matches. Here we're not looking for matches. Here we're just saying the order in which I expect to receive these documents back. So right here, is where we want to add the sort, just like we did with the where field. And so I'm going to have to actually split this up. I'm going to say let collection equal this. Let's make it a var just for now. And then if let sort equal sorting criteria. I hate having to type it out. Then collection dot sort pop up. Collection dot sort by. Let's build this to make it work. Oh, do you need to reindex? It's such a pain. Why are you not finding Firestore? Let's take a second while it indexes all this stuff. Okay, cool. So in my collection, I want to add a sort by, I'm sure our pain, but here I can just say sorting criteria dot raw value, because at least according to what I saw in this Stack Overflow article, first argument is a string. I happen to have the documentation for the iOS client version of this stuff, so let's go look at that as well, because it's pretty good. Looks like I was using the wrong name the whole time. So it's going to be order by. Still not tell me, but here we have some great documentation saying I want you to order. Order by also filters for existence of the given field, the results that will not include documents that do not contain the given field. So that's, what do you think that means? Sorry, I read this right here, this note. An order by clause also filters for existence of the given field. The results set will not include documents that do not contain the given field. This looks pretty similar to something we just looked at when we were decoding this stuff. Yep. So this is kind of like a compact map on the Firestore side. It's excluding anything that doesn't have that field, because if we're going to order by that field, then if it can't actually determine where you should go without that field, it's just going to throw you away. And so a lot of this stuff is going to be about making sure that all our fields match on all of our documents, that we can use all of our documents in the same way. But in our specific case here, if I want to sort by date created and my object save doesn't have a date created field, it's going to be completely excluded. Let's also look, by default, a query retrieves all documents that satisfy the query in ascending order. In terms of date, what is ascending order? So ascending is actually going to be from the oldest to the newest. So like as date gets bigger, basically. And so what we need to do is make sure that we're actually saying I want it in descending order. I want it from newest to oldest. And so maybe a more apt way of describing this might be from newest to oldest. And I could give it a value of, I don't know, date created. And then I could say var and have a computed property and say preferred ordering. How about should sort ascending? Have a computed property that is a bool, case from newest to oldest. return true. No, return false, sorry. I guess we should switch in here. What should we switch on? In an enum, just like any other type. Switch on self. So if I get back a sorting criterion, then I'm going to look at the raw value of that thing. And I'm also going to see whether I should be sorting it ascending. I guess to match the logic there, because the argument in the documentation says you actually use the argument descending, not ascending. Let's make it a little more semantically understandable, make it a little more readable by saying this is probably what we'll feed right into that descending argument. Cool. So now I want to get all posts. Let's use this order by again. Order by. It's not autofilling here. Let's just steal this. Order by. Sorting. Sort. Dot. Just nothing's going to work. Cool. Sort. Dot raw value, and descending is going to be sort dot should sort descending. So specifically for this kind of call, if there's a sorting criteria, I'm going to say we should order by this, and then after all that, I'm just going to say collection get documents. My Xcode is really not happy right now. But all we did was move some strings and bools out of this whole process into an enum that we can reference and build and grow. Oh, I love Xcode. Can someone tell me what we just did? Because we haven't even done it yet. We refactored, but we also added one thing. Yep. What we did was we added the ability, when we were getting posts, to sort them. We could call this get all posts like we've been doing, and if we don't add a sorting criteria, if this is nil, then it's just going to go and get them in whatever order it normally does. But if we do say, hey, sort it in a specific way, it's going to set up the way in which this should be sorted. So like get post for user ID. Right now we are sorting to make sure that we only get the ones that have this specific creator ID. We could also add a sort to that. So everything that occurs, everything that's done to the collection before we get documents is how it's going to set up what its response or what the collection you're actually dealing with is. This where field filtered down all the documents in the collection posts, and this order by didn't filter anything, but instead it ordered things. So it was just like a dot sort. Think of these different things we do to collections as higher order functions that we'll use on arrays. Yes, but in an ideal world, like if your data is working correctly, that never happens, or it shouldn't happen. That should be your setup.
did the order by the filter and I did it wrong. Contact was filtered out big, it had to build out of the order.
This is like a compact map in that it excludes any records that have a nil value for this sorting field. If your data works correctly, that shouldn't happen. Yeah, I would love if Xcode could like build my project.
Order by.
Sounds great. How about now? I don't want to build it, I'm scared. Thank you. Reading documentation, very important. While we're waiting, yes, and this can be a let because it's a class, and that's a variable on the class, great. What else do you think you can do from looking at this? Say how many results it should return. That's a limit. How many fields you could use? Tell me more about that, or just read me more about that.
You can also order by multiple fields. For example, if you want to order by state, and at the end of each state, order by population, you can send in orders.
Cool. And this is talking about cities, so there are multiple cities in each state, and in each state, for each specific set of sorted out groups, so New York, before it shows you whatever comes after New York, which I think is Ohio, before it shows you Ohio results, it's going to show you all the New York results ordered by population. So you can have compound or multiple fields that you order with. It's fun. You can also add wheres and orders and limits. Neat. You can also have wheres where you're not saying equal to, but you're actually saying greater than or doing some comparison. And they give you a note here. If you have a filter with a range comparison, your first ordering must be on the same field. So if you are looking specifically for populations and you want to sort after that, you must sort by populations. Was this page helpful? What do you guys say? Raise how many stars you want to give with one hand. Like how many fingers? Okay, Liana voted for everyone. She got 2 hands. Thanks, Google. What's that? If it's bad, they won't make it better. So I think it's good. I want them to feel accomplished. Okay, what is this not going to do right now? Anything. Why not? Because we haven't said we want to use this specific way to use it. So get all posts before just had a completion block. We added this sorted criteria, but because it's nil, we will get the option to use get all posts without having to give that argument. So let's change that S-U-C-K-E-R up a little bit. Just want to show you the 2 function signatures for this stuff. Get all posts. There you go. Either has a completion block or it doesn't, because in the function's definition, we said this thing starts with a default value of nil. It's also optional. So we could just, at this point, use that second, what do you call it? That second signature for this function and fill in a nil, and it would work the same way as using the top one. But here we want a criteria. Let's see what criterions we have. Oh, cool. Well, that was beautiful. Now the completion block works in the same way, so I'm going to just I deleted the important part. Okay. I'm going to just get rid of this. Yep. Result in here. Same result gets me posts, but those posts should be in a specific order. So if you're in the app right now, go ahead and create a post. Daylog. I think that's my stuff again. Cool. All right. I'm going to create a post. Say David wrote this at 11:24. It's fine, but not going to get many votes. Yay. All right. Sounds good. Posty post. See how it's at the bottom? Because I haven't sorted. This is the previously launched version. It's at the bottom, but this guy existed before. I think this guy existed before. Let's make some more posts and then rerun the app. And then here, I'm going to put a breakpoint. And in that breakpoint, I'm going to print out if I mapped only the date created, because this is an array of posts. So I'm just going to print out the date created for each of these objects, these posts. I'm going to make sure they're all in order. I think I put that at the wrong line. There we go. Okay. I got posts. I got 6 of them. But look at this one. It says the date is invalid. Well, that sucks. But look at this one. It says the date is invalid. Well, that sucks. We should probably debug it. So now we got to go into my get all posts. Now we got to look here. We got to look at this snapshot.data. I know we're all having a great time. So I have to go ahead and look at what's in the snapshot. I'm going to print out, if it would let me. Ooh, go away. Thank you. Print out snapshot dot data. Okay. I see a key called date created. That's a FIR timestamp, certain number of seconds. So what we are receiving back from Firestore is working. But I'm going to try to create a post. Sorry. When I go to initialize some posts, because that's what that's doing, which of these functions again does it use to get it back from Firestore? Line 27, yes, the failing init. And so, yes, so this could return nil or it could return a new instance of that object. Now here, line 33, if this guard statement didn't fail, then I should be able to have all those values gotten from that dictionary. Otherwise, it said dictionary was nil on those posts, so I guess I got nothing. Well, I made it there. I'd love to see what values it can tell me I had here. I already just print them out. Print out title. Cool. Print out date created. There we go. There's a date. But is it giving me anything back? Yeah. So there's a date created. And that's a date object. Let's say time since 1970. Does anyone know what happened in 1970 at time 0? They started counting. Who started counting? Who? Geeks and nerds, which you now all are, so maybe that's not derogative. Yes, Unix developers. This is the start of Unix time. Unix being like the OS that most things besides Windows are built on at this point. It's going to get to one more than that. They're about to end it. I don't know. Sunny. Bless you. I created an instance of it here, yeah. Yes, because this is optional. So when I create an instance of this, ultimately, like if I wanted to use this somewhere else as a date object instantiated from Swift, then I don't have to worry about the date created. But because the only way we've been using it right now is to feed it into an argument to create a post, it doesn't matter that it's nailed because I'm only using these fields when I create that thing.
Right, so I'm saying when you do create a post, you make the instance of the post using one with the date.
No, I just defaulted to using that as nil.
How would you know when it is?
So this, again, remember, this is just when we're creating the object on our client to be able to send it to our Firestore service to then use these fields. So we have an instance of it, having initialized it, but we only want these certain fields. And if I want to go create an instance of it elsewhere, so like there might be another way in which we set up, I don't know, an object called post here, then I could potentially feed it a date created from that initializer. This initializer comes from Firebase, but let's say I am passing or creating a new instance of comment from another source, like say I've got it persisted locally. Maybe I do want to give it a date created from that information I have there when I create it, but that's just for record keeping at that point. That's not for saving it to our collection. So this guy is like from something created remotely. This is for creating something locally. And so if I want to create it locally from potentially some other source, I might need that date created. But right now, the only time we're using this initializer is when we go to actually create it remotely. And so I don't need that date created. But I want to use this initializer for every other time I have to create an instance of comment that I'm using on the client that doesn't come from a dictionary. So if I have all the fields for a post, that's where I want to use that in it.
You're saying you haven't used it created, but you have the date for the comment created.
Yes, we are, but right now the only purpose of this init is to create a new instance of post on the client. And so ultimately that post, like where we use, let's see, when we go ahead and we create a new post, wherever we use this, it sends a post object here that we never use again. And so it's okay if there's no date created on that because I don't care. I'm just pulling the fields off of it so that I can go ahead and send that up to the server. Yeah. Oh. Yep. So this post I'm specifically creating does not need a date created, because the only purpose for this post right here is to have a better format. Like, this could be a dictionary that I could be creating right here to send to Firebase, but I gave that post a certain structure so that I know what's required of a post that I'm gonna send to Firebase. And so this is going to be converted to a dictionary, and I could have just created a dictionary with all these keys. I didn't need a date created for that point of creating a new post, because that's going to be done in the Firestore manager, Firestore service manager. And so I created an initializing function on init that didn't require a date created because I don't need it for that specific point.
Can you show me where you assign a date?
Yes, so when we assign the date, that's in the Firestore manager. So when I create a post, I assign a date to the dictionary that we get from that post object. I could extend dictionary and just have it so it adds a field called date created. I'm doing all that in here because I feel like it's better managed in here. Yes, I could, but it's not going to be, it's not going to have, if it is required, it's not going to have the flexibility to let me create a post just based on the stuff in this view controller. Because, like, I don't want to have to track the date from this view controller. This view controller shouldn't know what the model needs in order to save it. It should just be looking at its views to get the stuff out of the view and send to the model. Yay! All right, let's see why this thing still isn't working yet. Going back to our post, going in here, got a date created. Date created is, yep, it's an optional date. So that comes as that argument. I kind of forgot where we were. We wanted to see if the sorting worked. Okay, so we go back to our post list view controller. We check in here. I don't think we've hit here yet. And so we return a post. We return a bunch of postes. That's a word. Let's continue out of there. Go. Go. Continue. Go away. Has anyone ever ran into the issue where, like, the computer is really slow? Yeah, same. All right, so let's go back to that view controller and see if that sorting did or did not work. Whew. Give me 30 seconds. Okay, so I'm gonna log in. That's my password to all my bank accounts, if you've been catching on.
Is it Fireman 22?
Say it louder. It's no longer, but it used to be my password. Used to be my password to, like, everything, which I found out was not good when I got hacked. But yeah, it is Fireman22. Okay, why does date created come back nil here?
Well, for that object,
So they all come back as nil though, and that's distressing. what's the step between, I'm doing this because you're going to run into this all the time. Excuse me. Let's make sure our criterion is being added here. And let's also check in our success block for whether we are returning posts or our compact map filtered everything out. I know. Isn't debugging really super hella tight? What? Super, I forgot already what I said, but hella tight. Okay, let's do this. So we do have the sorting criterion from oldest to newest. It's optional, and so we have a sort. Let's print out what sort is. I'd love if this could go away. And then be done. Thank you. Print out sort. Print out sort dot raw value. Let's make sure we're getting what we need. Date created. Does that match exactly what we see in Firebase? Yeah, well, those are comments. But what about posts? Date created. Okay, it's working so far. Let's print out sort dot should sort descending. That's true. So from high to low. And so it looks like our criteria is working. Let's look at the resultant posts. Cool, that was asynchronous. Unable to insert, copy, send. I don't think that applies to us. That's in the kernel. What's the kernel? Not important. Let's print out our posts. Our posts. Thank you. Well, I can find out who that is, of course, by looking up the creator ID. Let's go look through my users real quick. It is, let's start with 9-1. So it is hackerman@pursuit.org. Not this time. Okay, let's see if there's any more identifying information for hackerman. Nope. Maybe we should, in the future, require email verification before someone can use the app. We could add a whole view controller that just waits for that. We could also link to that view controller using a protocol, using an actual web protocol from a link. We could send a link that doesn't use HTTPS, but instead uses some other protocol to make you actually open this app from that link in your email. The internet fucking rules. Okay. I'm sorry? It's super hella tight rules, yes. Okay, so our date created is optional here, but let's at least make sure that these posts are ordered. I know, right? Ah, why does it say it's nil there? We probably need to unwrap it in some manner. Real shame. What do these numbers say, though? 1547, 1461, 8415. I'm just looking, so this is a really big number, and I do this with IDs too, and like, you'll learn how you do this, I guess, but with really long strings and IDs, I look at like the first 3 letters and the last 3, well, first 3 characters and last 3 characters, because that'll help me figure out. It's probably a good enough way of figuring out if something is the thing you're looking for. Looking for the whole string kind of sucks, right? But EXP, Q72, okay, helps me know. Anyway, with this really big number, what I'm doing is I'm just looking at like 4 digits before the decimal. Those are the number of seconds since a point. I don't think these are related. I'm sorry, I don't think these are sorted. That's a real shame. 595-440-228. 595. For which guy? This guy? Let's have a look-see. But I want to look at it in here. So it's doing all this sorting. Boo. It's doing all this sorting by strings and by numbers. Can it sort by date? Yeah. Let's find out more. Firebase or Firestore. Sort by date. I thought that was a timestamp. Order Firestore data by timestamp. Huh, it's the same thing we were looking at before. You cannot use a string when querying your database instead of a date and expect it to behave as if it was a date. So instead, order by date, no. I don't think that's helping me right now. Timestamp, because it should just be ordering by the key. Use timestamp to filter and order Firebase Cloud, Firebase documents. Cool. If you are a beginner or would want to try out the magic with Firestore for web, oh wow. This is also not written in Swift. But can it work anyway? Order by, that looks familiar. Timestamp, descending. Sorting and filtering, sounds great. Some advanced stuff. This isn't even in Swift though, it's in JavaScript. I think the issue is actually a little bit different. We go here, we look at our posts, and they do have an optional value. And then I go to my get posts right here. Look at those posts. If I print out posts at 0 dot date created, it's going to return to me some optional value. Keep looking. They are definitely not sorted. What can we do? Let's look at our model. Angela, please help the class, or David specifically. Tell me more. On the get posts, on the view controller. So you sorted it locally? Yeah, that makes sense. But here I want to set up a call so that it just comes back sorted. I love it. Wow. We could have also done that here, right? Sorted or sort. Come on, let me sort it. Normally wouldn't put that. Yeah, I'd like when I'm dealing with data off of a server to not have to like do stuff to it, but instead be able to tell the server what I want. It's like ordering a steak, but also saying I want it medium rare. You're the client. Okay, let's see what we got. Posts. It's an optional array of posts. Here we nil coalesce it, so we're going to get posts. Posts here come back as nil values, even though they have some value. Let's look at that. That makes sense. Okay. All right, give me a couple minutes. Let me see if I can get a solution. And then